Hello, hello, hello. This is Stevie Aisha Mills, and we are back for another episode of The Conversation with Stevie. This is the show where we talk primarily about the why behind the what of what people do, and I'm excited today because we have another phenomenal guest who I have had the pleasure of getting to know her background, and I am excited to bring her to all of you. Let me read her bio. Mary Shores is the international best-selling author of Conscious Communications, your step-by-step guide to harnessing the power of your words to change your mind, your choices, and your life. As an author, speaker, entrepreneur, and CEO, she teaches individuals and businesses to fearlessly create their own reality by using scientific methods and practical personal development. Mary has appeared internationally in magazines, on television shows, and has been a guest on over 80 podcasts, including the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast, Lavender Life and Style, Positive Head, Ever Forward Radio, and more. Her practical and scientific methods, straightforward teaching, and actionable tips ensure that anyone can improve their life. Yes, we are here for all of that. I'm excited. Welcome to the show, Mary.
Thank you, Stevie. Thanks for a wonderful introduction, and I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. I love the work that you do. I love the fact that you speak about communication and choices, and like people say, that's my jam. So I think this conversation will be amazing. The question that I normally ask guests is truly about how you developed this. Is this something that you've always been ingrained with, or have you developed it over the years through trial and error? Where did this lifestyle that you're living and that you're working towards in your business, where did it come from?
It came from a lot of sources, and I can tell you that just like gearing up for the writing of the book was very much a 10-year process, maybe even a 15-year process, because 10 of those years I spent just saying over and over again, I want to write a book, but I'm not a writer. And the thing about that, Stevie, is that words are a mirror to our subconscious. So it's like when I say the words, I want to write a book, it's like you can see into my soul, and those words are written onto my soul. Like that is my purpose in life, to write this book. That's how important of a dream this was for me. But the problem was the words that I was using to follow that up with, but I'm not a writer, are also a mirror to my subconscious beliefs and programming. And what I mean by that is that somewhere along the lines in my life, I must have picked up some belief system that I couldn't write a book unless, like maybe felt like I needed to have a PhD in English, or maybe I felt like I needed to have connections in the publishing industry, which I didn't have any. So before I could write anything and fulfill my dream, I had some work to do on myself. And I really started investing in myself by, if I felt like I was missing the skill set and needed to write a book, that was the first place I invested. But how many times do people say, I want to start a business, but I don't have enough money, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I don't have the resources, I don't have the connections, or I want to lose weight, but I don't have time to go to the gym. It's just like we always say what our truest desire is, and then we follow that up with the but.
And that's rich, because we know that but negates everything. Like, no matter what you say prior to that word, it's negated because your mind reverses in the fact that you said it. So what do you think are some ways in which we can get our butts out of the way?
Well, I think that it's a process. So I've been talking about a lot lately how I am this workshop junkie. I love going to workshops. I love going to retreats. I love feeding my mind. It's just like I'm like a sponge. And I've lived through a lot of tragic circumstances in my life. And people are usually quite shocked to find out some of the things in my history, because I was out on my own at 16 years old. Shortly after that, I had a daughter who passed away after a traumatic, very serious, profound brain injury, and then had another child who's on the autism spectrum. So I've just had like one thing after another, after another, after another. And people always ask me like, well, how have you been able to move on and continue to thrive with your life when you have, when you've lived through these things? And what I've learned is, so I used to want to go to these workshops because they would advertise things like, you can have a transformation in a weekend. And I would go sign up with this expectation that I was going to transform. Like all of a sudden my life would be healed. And I would get to the end of the week or the weekend, and I had a good time and I would feel super juiced, but I would look at myself and say, I'm still the same person. I didn't transform. And it was to the point where I felt like everybody else around me was transforming, but I wasn't. So what I learned from that is that true transformation and true change happens in the smallest pivots of your life over a period of time. So it's not about like, do this trick and your life will change. It's about investing in so many areas of where you can change your life that when you look back a year from now, 5 years from now, you can see a total transformation. And so in the book that I've just released with Hay House called Conscious Communications, there are step-by-step exercises in there to get you to do that very thing, that things that are designed specifically with neuroscience in mind to be able to change your belief systems by pivoting your neural pathways in your subconscious mind.
Wow. I love all of that richness that you just talked about, because the first thing that you began talking about just now was about the trauma, or what I would love to call, and what I do call, the it experience. Everybody has their it experience, but they cannot get stuck inside of that, and it does take some inside work, right? It does take that, and people, have other ways of coming to this. And I know that the fact that you truly speak from experience and relevance helps your clients, your listeners, your readers, everyone who is connected to you, and it's such a testimony of your strength and your transparency and your realness. And I know that you also deal a lot with just neuroscience and the brain, which are exciting things, and I love to see how things work. And I want to hear some about the research and how did you become interested in that?
So the way I became interested in it, especially the first time, was because my daughter had a brain injury. So she had trauma at birth, and she had lack of oxygen to the brain for over 5 minutes. And she passed away at 1.5 years. But in my young, naive mind, I was only 19 years old, I felt like she could heal. And so I would start to study the brain because I wanted to know everything I could about the brain. And then again, when my son received a autism diagnosis when he was in the 2nd grade, he's a senior now, it was the same thing. Like I just began to want to learn everything I could about neuroscience. And, I've always been sort of what I call a gypsy scholar, meaning that I'm very drawn to things that are spiritual and mystical, and especially things about ancient culture. At one time I wanted to be an archaeologist. But I have this very scientific side of myself, too, where I really want to know everything about the universe and our minds, and just science really jazzes me. So I was able to combine those two loves to really gain not only a scientific understanding, but a spiritual understanding. So like, to give you an example of how this works, one of the processes that I've written, and everyone can find this even if you don't buy the book, because it's on a blog that I wrote called 5 Steps to Break Through Your Breakdown. And every single one of these steps, they're very simple steps to do. The first step, like you think you're having a breakdown. So think in your mind like you've got this you've got this enormous problem and you feel just completely stuck, and you're so stressed out that you freeze and you don't really do much, and you start to procrastinate because you're just so stuck. And then later you feel guilty because you procrastinated. So 5 steps to break through your breakdown. The very first step is to write a list of the problems in your life. And I did this, and I had 20 things on my list. And so what the research shows us is that there was a study done by Matthew Lieberman, who is a researcher out of UCLA, who did a study that proved that just by naming your problems, you create dopamine, serotonin. So those are like the feel-good chemicals. Those are like the Disney World, like you really feel good and happy. That's dopamine and serotonin. But you instantly create that in your brain by writing this list. Now, we don't know why, but we know that it's true because it can be measured. Okay, then it also stimulates the problem-solving areas of your brain. So when you write the list of the problems, you stimulate the problem-solving areas of your brain, which is going to give you the ideas that you need in order to work through whatever's going on. So it's so exciting because every one of the steps is like that. They're very simple steps. But if you do the steps, you're going to change your physiology in a way that's going to make you feel better. It's going to motivate you and inspire you, and you're going to get out of that guilt, that shame, and that cycle of procrastination.
Wow. I appreciate you really breaking that down, because I think a lot of people are looking for that tangible way in which they can get out of their barrier, right? Get out of their stuck place, get out of their just place where they feel like they can't go on. And that's amazing that you broke that down for us. And so we know that you have written this wonderful book, and it piqued my interest because of the way communication is in my mind. I studied communication in college, and I really do, especially through this conversation podcast, I believe in the power of communication. What does it mean to you, and why is it so important that we communicate?
Okay, I love that question, because we all have sort of this image in our mind about what communication is, and why, to me, this is one of the most powerful things that you can invest in yourself, is because, when we talk in terms of spirituality and getting your life in the place that we want, we hear this word a lot, alignment. Do you hear that word?
Yes, ma'am. I do.
So when I used to first hear that word, I would be very confused by it. And I eventually come to learn and understand that alignment, to me, means you need to get your thoughts, your words, your actions, everything you do in sync or in the same direction as what your dreams and desires are. And so just like at the beginning of the show when I was saying I want to write a book but I'm not a writer, that is an example of being out of alignment. And so thoughts are too complicated. So we always think you have to think positively, or, you have to think about what you want instead of thinking about what you don't want. The problem with that is that your thoughts are being fed from your subconscious mind, which you really don't have control over, to the prefrontal cortex, your conscious mind, which you do have control over, but really only about 5% of it. And so the point is that you think the same thoughts every day, and you think a lot of them, and they're very difficult to control. So what can you control? You can control your words. You can create a daily practice of certain things that are going to exercise the muscle in your mind to be able to strengthen the words you use in a purposeful way that will eventually change your behaviors, which will then change your thoughts. So I think that going at it, when people say just change your thoughts, change your life, well, honey, you try changing your thoughts. It's not that easy. But
Exactly. Go ahead.
when you change your words. So, or when you ask yourself powerful questions like, how can I? So instead of just saying, I'm not a writer, well, what do I need? What are 6 things that need to be true in order for me to become a writer? What do I need to learn? What do I need to do? And when you change that, your perception begins to change. Then your choices begin to change, and eventually your thoughts begin to change. So, obviously now, all these years later, I have a best-selling book, #1 bestseller on Amazon in multiple categories, and the categories are self-esteem, communication, and happiness. And it's so funny to me that I would have a bestseller in a category called happiness, because I'm not the poster child of positive psychology. Because I believe that when the shit hits the fan, we really need a way to process what's going on in our lives.
That's awesome, because it is true, and it's a tool, books and everything are tools to get to that point. And we do need that help, because I think sometimes when we are at that point where there is no way that we can see past our situation, we need something to help us. And I love the way that you're so strategic, because there are people who deal a lot with positive development and all these personal development and wonderful things, but they don't normally deal in such a strategic way and say, this is the first step. We're always looking for behind or beyond the mission of what's happening in life. And so I think that the way that you are saying and the way that you are writing and the way that you even are in your aura, it just breaks down some things, some concrete things, and I appreciate that, because I need the ABCD of things when I can't think for myself, and that's amazing. So I also appreciate the fact that your personal life and the unfortunate traumatic things that have happened in your life, you have used as a platform. How did that come about? Did you immediately say, let me go into this realm of helping other people? Was that part of your healing? How did that come about that you utilized your pain to turn it into a beautiful platform?
I would say it was more to do with being an entrepreneur, believe it or not. So my drive, my personal ambition in life, I'm a very driven person, and so it was much easier for me to have that personal drive and ambition in my business than it was in my personal life. And I don't think that that's unusual in entrepreneurs. A lot of times you see that they thrive in their business, but then their personal relationships suffer. And so what I would say is the transformation happened for me first at work, because I own a business that is so unusual to be like in this position of a personal development and spiritual teacher, which is I own a collection agency. But my thought process was very different, and my mission is that I want people to feel good about paying their debt, because having a debt is a psychological burden. And it's a burden that keeps people, it becomes a brick wall between someone and what they want. So we know for sure that there is shame and unworthiness attached to having a debt. So people won't apply for the same job. They won't apply for a mortgage on a house. They won't even date the same person, because deep down inside they feel this shame and unworthiness. And my initial, when I first started this 15 years ago, my one goal was, how can I make this person happier at the end of the call than they were at the beginning of the call? And I had already been studying about neurology, so I had a starting place that I knew I wanted to create phrases and words that would make people feel good about paying their debt instead of feeling shame. And it worked, and it worked quickly.
Wow. And so with the quickness of what has happened in your business, how have you truly been able to keep up with it? Because we know that you've had a lot of success with your podcast that you've been featured on, which are amazing. Congratulations on that. And you're an international best-selling author who you told us about the various categories. So when that happened quickly, what was that ride like? How did you stay grounded and still stay true to yourself, as well as excelling in a place where you were? And you also said that you were very driven, so was it an expectation that this is just the beginning?
So the writing process is very long, so none of this happens all at once. I had plenty of time to prepare. I have a staff, so I have 25 employees that are here, and they're all very well trained. And so I was pretty strategic with how I wanted to plan things out to be prepared, because I knew that I was going to need to have the time and the freedom to be able to do the public speaking, be on the shows, do the traveling. I'm just got done speaking at a Hay House Writers Workshop, so, that's extremely exciting to have those opportunities. But because I had the foundation of my business set up very well, and the business is already 20 years old, so that foundation was already set and allowed me that freedom. That's one of the great things about being an entrepreneur is you have that freedom to explore other things.
Awesome. We have just a few more minutes, and I tend to ask guests this question who come to the conversation with Stevie, and that question, the very last question before we get your contact information, is truly, if you were to say, Stevie, we have got to leave this conversation today with people knowing, fill in the blank, how would you fill in the blank?
I would want people to know that their greatest manifestations happen outside of the comfort zone. And so if you want to see change, you've got to get out of your comfort zone.
Wow. I love that, because for me, the comfort zone is your broken zone. And anytime somebody talks about a comfort zone, you are right. You are so right in the fact that you do have to get out of it so that your life can be not only change for you, but change for the people who you're accustomed to design assigned to. And so, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. And I want to thank you, Mary, for spending some time with us today on the Conversation with Stevie. It has been a beautiful time. I love your spirit, and I really, really want us to have you give your contact information so that we all can stay connected to you.
Yeah, I have tons of stuff going on all the time. We give away a lot of free stuff on our website, which is maryshores.com, and you can find me on all kinds of social media with Mary, M-A-R-Y, Shores, S-H-O-R-E-S. So, of course, we're all over Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of them. And we'd love, love, love for you to go on Amazon or Hay House or Barnes & Noble and just read the description of the book, Conscious Communications, your step-by-step guide to harnessing the power of your words to change your mind, your choices, and your life. Read the description, and if it resonates with you, the book will be on sale. The Kindle version of the book is on sale for $1.99 until November 6th.
Awesome. And this is one thing that I have to ask, because I just thought about it before we leave, and that's about this week's affirmation. What is the affirmation? Because I know you do weekly affirmations. Let's leave everybody with that affirmation that we all can say and we all can stand on. So what would you say is one that you believe we all need to hear today, whatever drops inside of your spirit first?
Well, the first one that popped into my head is guide me to thoughts in harmony with my core desires.
Wow. Say it one more time, please.
Guide me to thoughts in harmony with my core desires.
Wow. That is good. And that is really rich because I think that, in order to even manifest it, you've got to believe it, and that's good. We will definitely be speaking it, and I will definitely be speaking it because I love affirmations too. I love quotes and all of those great things. And so, again, so that we can remember your contact information, because I needed to ask you that question before we went away. How can we connect with you?
On MaryShores.com and on Facebook, Mary Shores, Shores.
Perfect. Again, thank you, Mary, for being here. You do have an amazing team. I've appreciated the communication that I've had with your team member on behalf of you before we even got to connect, and that just says really great things, because organized people who have organized platforms do great things in this world. And so thank you again for being here. We look forward to just continually seeing you grow and continually seeing you move in the work that you do. And thank you for having the conversation with Stevie today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. All right, everybody, if you ever need me for anything, all you have to know is to spell my first name, and that's Stevii, Stevii. And you can find me all over social media. You can find me at www.stevie.com, and you can find me, of course, here on The Conversation with Stevie. I want to tell you to make it a great day. Don't just have a great day. Make it a great day. Why? Because you, and yes, you too, have the power to do so. Bye for now.